Yo, what up guys? Vince Castillo, Coach V with VCast Coach. And lately I've been busy. You guys haven't seen a lot of content coming from me. So lately the consulting business, VCast Coach LLC, also as DBA for VCast Consulting LLC. Officially all our domains and stuff is under VCast Consulting. So that's what we use. So with VCast Consulting, that's pretty much the marketing arm of what I do. Is what my original business was. And I want to actually make this not so much about organization of business. I'm going to go ahead and get that into a later video for those of you who are interested. But really I want to record this content for talking about money management. So what is money management? What's the importance of it? What is things that you can do as far as promoting or doing things to make sure you have money in your bank account at all times? So I myself gonna kind of dive into my personal history as far as with what I was taught and what I currently did and do as far as in regards to finances. I'm learning more as I go along, and I'm recently actually just started a new venture and learning more about finances in that regard. So for me, how did I originally learn money management? And what is money management? So money management is pretty much being able to know and have the rationale to put money where it needs to go at a specific time. So in this case, let's say for those of you who work jobs, I used to work a job as well, is when you actually receive your paycheck, whatever amount it may be, what do you do with that money? That counts as money management. So when you're actually creating wealth for yourself and working towards that goal, what is going to be the main factor that ensures your financial success? So in my sense, I started working when I was 16. My first job was at a pita pit. It was literally called Pita Pit. It was a company that was like a Subway but with pita bread. And I was probably the longest held job that I've ever worked. I believe I held that job for a year and a half. That was in my sophomore and junior, no, my sophomore year. Oh, I might have actually been younger because so I might have probably been 15. But going forward with that, I was basically paid minimum wage as a 15-year-old. So when I'm working this job, I would receive like $200, $300 checks. So anytime I got a check, I would immediately put it in a savings account. So for those of you who don't know, if you go to a major bank, you can have a debit account and a savings account under your name. In my sense, it was a college account that I made and really put that out there for. So when I am actually going through and getting my checks, I always put it in my savings. The reason I always put it in my savings was mostly due to the fact that that's how I was taught. So my parents always taught me to save. That's like the big thing you must and have to do. So when you're doing that and when you're putting all this money away, it really just sits in a bank without having any type of growth. Each bank account has a set interest rate that the bank sets, which is largely also based on the economy and the market itself. But pretty much each bank account has a very small amount of interest. Interest being, as this money sits here in this institution, it'll gain 0.01%. I can't remember the exact percentage of interest right now, but it's a very small amount. So pretty much your money won't change in value. If you put $200 in your savings account, it's going to stay $200. So when you actually go through and are building this amount of money as you deposit more checks, you're working in the week, deposit another check, working a week, deposit another check, or in this case, mostly if you're bi-weekly, the money won't actually grow, but you will be accumulating this money over time. So there's really 4 kinds of equity. And you have to be able to money manage the specific type of capital that we're talking about. That's going to be capital equity, actual cash. So in this case, what can you do that would best allow you to grow and facilitate the use of that money? So one is the basic understanding of always try to save. Always do save. Anytime you get a large amount of money coming in, make sure you put a small amount in your savings, roughly anywhere from like 20 to 30% into a saving. That's going to be one financial bucket. Next, you're going to have a debit account. So with your debit account, what you're going to want to do is that's going to be the money you're going to be using to spend on the daily. If you have to get gas, if you have to get groceries, make sure you always put money into this debit account, which you're going to be using to grow. To spend your daily habits on. When you use that debit account to spend your daily habits, that's going to be a smaller amount, and that'll be what you eat out to lunch with, all of that. So you're going to be using that and actually facilitating your money. So you have two accounts now. You have a debit account and a savings account. If you want to go open these, go to the bank and just do it. So when you do this, you're going to actually be building two basically cash piles of money, a debit account and a savings account. So anytime that something emergency happens, or over time, this is the generic employee mindset, you will be able to pull out of that cash reserve in your savings in case a big expense needs to happen. Sometimes people go on vacations, they pull from their savings, which is not, you usually don't want to touch your savings. So in this case, when you are facilitating that and you are doing that a lot, you really want to make sure that you're always putting more money in your savings than your debit, just to ensure that the money you're being saved is greater than what you're currently spending. I know people, and this is a habit that I'm still trying to break, just because I have a business, there's constant cash coming in and out of my accounts. There's honestly always more as a cash reserve, so I can use it for an investment rather than spend on frivolous things. So you have like buying a course, investing in a new coach, learning how to learn a new skill, new softwares that can optimize your business, any type of taxes that you have to pay, monthly expenses. So as far as in the biz, you have this category, and then you have this category of frivolous things that you can use kind of forever. Dates out, lunches, dinners, going out, having a few drinks, buying shoes, like that kind of thing, clothes. This is all that frivolous money that people, like, it buys the nice luxury stuff that people want in life, but you always have this need and this external expenses that you have to manage and you have to do and use. So to manage both, that's money management. You never want to have too much in this category because you'll have nothing for you in case anything happens, so you'll be fucked. And I'm saying that in a very literal sense, but in the fact that that happened to me in my personal experience when I first launched my business. I started my business when I was 20. I'm not 21. Going into 10 months. So I had a large amount of savings, and because I was in high school working this whole time, I was doing like little high school stuff, like, I don't know, buying a video game, something like that, and my savings built up, right? So when I started my business, I was like, huge risk, okay, off the entrepreneurial cliff, and I just spent everything on my savings, except now I'm not spending my money on frivolous things. I'm spending my money on debits of actual business expenses, softwares. It has a monthly expense. Ad cost, huge amount of expense for me. That was a huge expense. Buying equipment, so like this camera, this hard drive that is storing all my footage. Investing into coaches and courses, joining a mastermind, like all of that cost money, okay? And slowly, because I'm not working anymore, or I stopped focusing on working an hourly job, slowly this starts to drain and my expenses pile and pile and pile up. So if you're not paying attention to that, like how I did not, that's poor money management skill. Now, how do you manage this going forward? One, now you have to have an influx of cash to make sure that your expenses and everything that you just splurged on in a short period of time can be paid for, as well as building your savings back up now, because you always want that cushion. You always want at least 6 months of cash on hand to make sure that if anything happens, you have enough to live on for at least 6 months. So I'm in that phase now, in that building phase again. It's okay because I'm young enough to actually just start over. However, this is when you want to take risks, is when you're young. So anyone who's my age who's watching, take risks, do crazy stupid shit now, because you have years and years and years to before you have to retire, and that's when it will truly affect you. I'll get into more of investments, but this video I really want to make about money management, knowing on the basic of just saving and spending, how to have that balance. And this is a lesson that I've learned within the past 6 months of really almost destroying my business and now building it back up. So that was this video. It was on money management. I hope you guys enjoyed it, got some value. Till next time, peace.